I think Bozeman's the #1 city in the nation as far as growth
For
right
expansion?
now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe they filled up Clark County, Nevada, and Maricopa County, Arizona. Those two used to go back and forth for
Yeah.
about 20 years as the fastest growing counties in the U.S.
All right, you
That's
are
why
live.
we were down there.
Several 100,000
Yeah.
at a time.
Wow.
You were live.
We had 5 crews in Arizona.
Oh, we're going to be on TV, so we can't talk about anybody anymore, huh?
And I didn't print an agenda, but basically if you call to order, take public comments, and then we'll just roll right into the working meeting.
To me, the agenda is to narrow it down to get Jerry something to work with.
County to be on the board. Wasn't there another person?
Yeah, I haven't heard from
I don't know. Did we ever find out why Chad left? He was so good. I liked him a lot. Do you want an apology to you now? I owe you one. No, I do. I owe Nicole an apology on the regs of Richland County, the picture. It is law. We've just never been doing it. Never knew it existed. And I got it written down, the law,
I think
where,
we were actually more stringent, which is good, for our benefit, but we need to discuss that too.
Do we have to officially call it to order, or?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, I guess we are then. Seeing as how we have a quorum for a working group, even if we don't have any visitors. Without an agenda, what I was thinking about was to try to start it off on a positive note. I think we have all discussed it enough that we're in agreement on the Lewis and Clark road formula. Maybe actually get something in our notes or our book that, yes, we like this. I've talked to Jerry about it. I haven't heard any negative comments from anybody. Bernadette seemed to be pretty much in favor of it from everything I could gather. It's just a straightforward methodology of how the county would determine what percentage a subdivider would pay.
Oh, okay. I don't have a copy of that, and I don't believe Mary does either.
I do not.
Okay.
I can hand Mary up this one. Oh, I don't know if we have,
We'll share.
is the proportion in here, or
The formula is there. It starts, just so we've got a reference, it's section H, streets and roads. I don't see, I'm looking for a page number, but I don't.
they don't have page numbers.
Well, it looks like it's 11-7, XI 7.
7, okay.
But H is the streets and roads.
I'm gonna look there by Dennis.
And it just goes through.
Oh, you here, oh, you got it for? Okay.
That one in particular, and it has been, well, actually, it's a result of a court case, or 2 court cases, and it is widely accepted, according to what Jerry says, in the entire government development contractor community. Nobody questions it. Everybody's happy with it. Sounds to me like a win-win situation if we have something that's in black and white that you can tell them, okay, you have this done and this is what your share is gonna be.
Yeah, it makes it pretty simple.
I haven't
for a
seen any
contractor.
negatives in that particular section.
So this is the Lewis and Clark County road regulations?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, their subdivision rec, it's
Right.
section H, roads and streets, Roman numeral 11-7. It's about a page and a half, maybe 2 full pages long, and it actually gives the requirements and the formula to be used in terms of, upon the findings of what the traffic is.
Okay.
Anything we can get in there to make it simple and acceptable. And it seems fair from everything that I've seen. You just got through doing one, what do you think?
Well, they talk about the standards of Lewis and Clark County. Does,
We'd have to change that to our standards. but
Okay.
that, you know, it's the concept that I'm after, Mary, is just the fact that they put it in black and white, it's widely accepted.
okay,
Subdividers, government, contractors understand what has to be done. You come over to that and you get, actually it's 3 pages. You come over to there and you have a formula. The formula is on Roman numeral 11-10.
So was your thought to go through the Richland regulations page by page today?
Go through which?
Richland?
Probably,
Okay.
eventually, but is there any more comment or anything on this one? And I guess the question is, do we need a motion, or are we gonna take a vote on each one, or how do we do it? This, to me, this is still the first or second go-round. We've got another option. So if somebody doesn't like it, it's not like we're trying to force something on anybody, because once it gets put into the final format, that's when we actually get down and start to arm wrestle, as far as I'm concerned.
okay.
I mean, if there's major complications, yeah, we can take them out, but
I would like to, I made a list of things to do first. If you could explain to me, I would really enjoy it.
on which?
All the above.
Oh,
I have, where I found the Marr County regs, I'd like to know how we are gonna pay Jerry. Do we do this at the end when we're all done with all of this? Do we give him a copy of it and then he goes through it and critiques it for us? And then we pay him from what's not in the grant? A procedure for all of us, a timetable that we'd like to have this done. And the most important are roads, lists for Nicole's subdividers, and a checklist for us to complete, and pictures. Nicole likes pictures, we should see about getting her pictures, and I like pictures. And anyway, that's what I'd like to, just those few questions as we get into this, how we are going to compile it all either, and I don't care if we go through like this, do roads first and then do some other part next, but I'd like to have an idea of how we're going to do this, pay Jerry, our timetable, and to make sure we get done our lists and roads and pictures. And I did have roads as number 1.
Nicole, did you look up to see what the deadline was on the grant?
I did. Email, I can write it down.
Is there any way we can get a Lewis and Clark County Public Works manual for this road, determining cost?
I would like a copy of the,
You do have a copy?
no, I would like one.
Yeah, I think it would be neat for us to have that too.
Mhm.
You talking about for this part for the roads?
Yes. Page number C, determining cost.
Yeah. No, Mary pointed that out. I think we go either direction, but the idea being is that would be changed to Broadwater County standards.
Yes, but if we had an idea of what they're looking for, I mean, I don't know if they want 1 inch of gravel or 12 inches, I mean, you know more of that than I do. I don't know anything about roads.
I can't tell you what they are right now. Originally, 20 plus years ago, our standards came from Lewis and Clark. The first set of Broadwater County subdivision road regs were borrowed from Lewis and Clark. We just basically changed the name.
Can you get Nicole a copy of our standards, Broadwater County's road?
Yes, yeah, they're in the regulations.
They are in the regulations? Okay.
I don't recall what appendix there. I think if you're going to amend or look at amending the road regulations, you're gonna wanna talk with Public Works also. They are identical, the Broadwater County road standards are identical to the Broadwater County subdivision road standards. And not because subdivision roads are reviewed by Public Works or our county road, but I think they should be very, very similar. So we don't have 2 different road standards out there, even though they're different road types. There's subdivision roads and there's county roads. I think we've got to be cognizant of trying to keep our standards similar.
I don't think we want to change the standards.
No, I don't see us changing the standards. All I see is that it's a formula to establish what a subdivider's share.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was speaking to Jenny's question on obtaining Lewis and Clark County road standards.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I was speaking to Jenny's question on
Oh.
obtaining the Lewis and Clark County road standards.
Okay.
I can certainly get them.
If they're ours, like ours, that's no problem. We don't have to have it. Herb's correct. What we need is how we charge somebody for the road.
Right.
Yeah. I don't see,
150th or whatever.
all I see is adopting the language that, to get to the formula and the reasoning therefore, because it's widely accepted, and it will be for the Broadwater County standards.
So we don't need to get the Lewis and Clark County Road standard.
That's up to everybody else.
No, I think we
Not,
just
not
leave
in my
that.
mind, we don't, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just a matter of taking their language from that section H for those 3 pages and substituting any place that says Lewis and Clark, substituting Broadwater County, because it's already accepted, it's been tried in court, and it should be something that you would come to like. You might not like it the first time because it's new, but the idea being is that the liability to the county should be as low as possible
Right. Okay.
because it's already been tested. That was my reason. It seems fair and it reduces liability, so that can't be all bad.
So have we decided on approach on this? Are we gonna take our regulations and look at, I'm sorry, Richland counties? And go through page by page ours and try to match up to Richland, or are we, I guess I don't know the approach on how we're.
Well, I still don't know it, Mary, because I put a call in to Jerry last week and I haven't heard anything back in terms of what format he wanted the first step in. I'm kind of under the impression from that last Zoom meeting was that everybody is enamored with these, so perhaps if we just go through and say no, 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 or okay, at least they've got a table.
And I
I
thought
really
maybe,
don't care. I mean, there's some things that have to be in them, whether we like them or not.
I think the first step is coming up with an approach to get ours in a preliminary format to give to Jerry. Is that correct?
And yes, and it was my understanding that we were to go through the Richland County regulations page by page, take out the things we don't like, question the things that may be law, but we're not sure if we want to leave it in or not.
I know it was brought up last meeting to take ours and modify it to bring in Richlands, the ones we liked. I don't know. I guess we have to decide on what way we're going.
I like you're suggesting that Richlands, we have ours, which we've been using for all these 9 years, and maybe inserting some of this, but to go through this page by page when we already have this, when 90% of it we already like, and like you say, insert Lewis and Clark's Road in it, we know we've got that much squared. We can look at what Richlands is, road, but I don't like anything in Richland.
So why don't we just take ours and put in what we like about other counties?
I think because that approach, so much has changed. You know, I know we like ours, but ours are 9 years old. That's what, 4 legislative sessions that have met. Richland counties are the most up-to-date and comprehensive and inclusive of legislative changes. And so that's why it was more important that we went through Richlands to look at the things that we don't like, the things that, you know, we cannot live with, maybe some things we can live with, and question that, because without knowing for certain what has changed, I think, you know, we're literally comparing apples and oranges. Our regulations are 9 years old. So trying to look at that and say, well, we're not sure if this law has changed or not, but if we can look at Richland that is inclusive, I still feel like that's the best course of
But
action.
Richland and Broadwater County are very different counties.
Very different, yeah.
And so it's almost like comparing apples to oranges again.
Not really, because regulations typically are similar across the state, in that they come from the state. You know, that's why there's model regulations, you know, there's planning committees, you know, things like that put together regulations. So regulations are actually quite similar across the
Okay.
state. You're gonna run into things maybe like zoning, road regulations are very specific. But the overall gist of it is pretty similar from county to county.
I was hearing from the board members last time that Richland had a lot of things in it that were not pertaining to Broadwater County.
And
Because
that's why,
they're-
to go through it and identify what are those things.
Yeah, I think my personal opinion on it, there's probably the first half, maybe, is pretty much boilerplate. It's a
Okay.
question, what Nicole's saying is that at least this stuff has been studied, so otherwise we'd have to go back and get the last 4 of these
Okay,
and try to come up with them and make sure that we had everything in them. This much of it, those last 4 of the state ones are already in this.
okay,
The problem that I had with Richland, I think they went overboard on several things, and we don't need to go overboard. Some of them, quite frankly, to me, is like beating a dead horse,
okay,
because what they were doing, in my opinion, was, you know, I don't know how many pages they spent on floodplain regs. The statement that, and it's already in here, is that you have a federal superiority, we have a floodplain administrator. If anything is in the floodplain, that it gets referred to the floodplain administrator. As far as I'm concerned, covers all of the stuff that
Okay.
Richland tried to crack the whip and make it look like they were going above and beyond, I guess.
okay.
But we don't have jurisdiction to go above and beyond federal on the floodplain.
No,
So why belabor the fact, I guess, is what I'm looking at. There's some things we don't have any choice, whether we like them or not, they're gonna be law.
so do we have a consensus that we're gonna use Richland's and modify it to be ours? Is that what we're gonna do?
I don't know that it's say to modify it, but to me, that's the template, and that's what I wanted to find out from Jerry, but he didn't call me back, the consultant. But I think that's what he's expecting, is if we literally go through here and we say, okay, pages 15 through 18 are okay.
Okay,
That gives him a template to build on. Whether he's gonna actually copy that or whether rewrite it, I haven't a clue.
okay,
The only thing I expect to see rewritten is things that we have picked out of the others that he gave us
okay,
to look at,
okay,
both good and bad. And that's the biggest good I found was that road one. And other than that, it's just, to me, it's a whole lot of simplification. There's things in here that Nicole likes in terms of where it's actually in checklist form that she can hand to a subdivider. I expect to get into that. Or that
I think
app
that's-
supplements entirety, is that what it is that you like on this one?
Yeah, I like every bit of that.
You know, and if it's nothing more than the supplement, that can be changed, but do we still have to have a public hearing to change that part of it? Or you
I
just
don't know, I'll
want
have to look into it.
to, that'd be a question, but the idea being is that if there's something there, rather than giving the whole big book, somebody comes in and says, I wanna do a 5-lot minor someplace, and you say, okay, this is what you're gonna have to come up with.
so I guess we need Was Jerry okay with us taking Richlands? And-
Yes. And that was in fact his recommendation, and also from Mako, from the land use attorney.
Okay, so Jerry wants us to use Richlands. I guess is that what we're gonna do? I guess we have to make that decision first before we even move forward.
Well, to me, it's the most productive use of our time.
Okay,
If that's what he's expecting to see, then after everybody's looked at this, Nicole likes it, if nobody else has any objections, say, okay, the supplements go as they are, because
Okay.
they're separate. And he gets a template back to rewrite the rest of them.
I guess, do we all agree then we're gonna use Richlands?
Like I say, I'm not trying to
No,
say one way or the other.
I think we have to make a decision and then move forward, because we can keep going back and forth on this. and-
Are there any objections if we do that? We can always add and deduct from this,
I'll go through it and I'll be verbal.
okay?
That's good.
We're expecting that. Your book's marked up better than most of them. So,
So everyone agrees that we're going to use Richlands?
I guess we're gonna just start going through it page by page.
So just to make sure, we are all using the same version adopted October 31st, 2019.
That's what mine say.
October 31st, 2019.
Okay. Just to make sure, okay.
I do not have a copy
You don't have Richland?
of Richland, no. If you have another one,
I do not.
you do not. Well, I can look over Jenny's shoulder here. I don't know that I need it.
No, I'll, if you look over Jenny's shoulder until Helen
Yeah.
gets here, I'll text her to print one
Yeah,
off.
this is good. I can,
We'll both behave.
yeah. Whatever have is.
We have to make the print larger so you can see it from 6 feet away.
Right. This is 6 feet, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks to me like it is.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Let me see, just make sure no, I never have had one of these.
Any exceptions on page 1? Any on page 2?
Definitions, I guess that's okay.
These are all just the definitions.
Okay.
Any additions or deletions on page 3? Anything on page 4?
Oh, it's funny, flag lots.
Anything on page 5?
So on page 5, they have a major defined as 6 or more lots. Is that the same here?
Mm-hmm. That's MCA.
Is that- Okay,
I'd make a note, I don't have any objection with what's there, but after, so we can make as much progress as possible and see where we're at, I have some thoughts that I would like to drag by everybody in terms of some language that we might add in there in the definitions on the lots. Anything on page 6? Page 7. Page 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. That was relatively painless. I only got through 10% of the book. General provisions, page 13. Anybody have any problem with those? Page 14.
What I was trying to do was sort of comparison, what we have now compared to theirs, like jurisdiction.
Okay, do you need more time when?
No, I
going
can
through
do
the-
that at home and bring it up next meeting if I need to.
Okay. Anything on page 15? I had no objections, but just food for thought for the next time. Under the last sentence on construction timing, the possibility, and I don't know if it's legal, but if it is, why don't we make it easier for them to do something where they post a bond, as opposed to saying, no, you can't do it, and then nobody enforces it.
Great minds.
Hey, if you want to start tomorrow, post a bond for X amount of money, then you go to work tomorrow while we're looking at it.
That's what we have right here.
That's what Jenny had
We'll
written
post a
down.
bond.
You got that, okay. Well, that's what we get from hanging out together. for
Yeah.
a while.
I think it's important to remember, though, that posting a bond is after preliminary. This is
Before.
pre-preliminary. So that's actually an MCA.
Okay, I can't hear you, Nicole, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to turn the microphone around to you. Your mask is thicker.
So this is actually pre-preliminary, this construction timing.
So
I understand that.
after.
So there's no bonding pre-preliminary, there's bonding after preliminary.
Oh, and while we're at here, I'm just reading my tabs. Number 3, under notice. The subdivider will post notices at conspicuous places on the site of the proposed subdivision at least 10 days prior to the public hearing. Notice shall be at least 3 feet by 3 feet and be readable up to 50 feet from the edge of the existing road or proposed site. Are we kidding?
What page is this on? I'm sorry.
It's on
Page 15.
Page 15, item 3. No, I missed that.
You'd have to read it on the fly as the wind touches the Bozeman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
It's overboard.
So
50 feet.
on item 2, we have to the planning board has to send out certified mail to each adjoining landowner also?
Yes, yeah, I do that on behalf of the planning board, but that is required by state law.
Okay.
You get to see my sense of humor. There's some bad ones maybe I don't want you to see.
I don't know, make it easy on Jerry. I agree that that one's overkill.
I think you should
What about, let's strike the last part of the sentence, this is readable up to 50 feet, because I couldn't read it 50 miles an hour, I couldn't read it. Thing it'd have to be 10 foot tall before I
Yeah.
could read it. I mean, I can see if the subdivider does that, the only benefit that I can see, it gets rid of the NIMBY and the complaints that we get about posting. If they put up a sign of X amount on the property, if you don't care enough to stop and read the sign, why are you coming to the meeting and complaining about it?
Well, if they come to the meeting and complain, they already know what's going on.
Well, but the part of what they complain about is that they weren't notified. We've had several like that, that's all. I don't really care. I agree that the readable at 50 feet is ludicrous. But whether or not, do we want to strike the whole thing? Is that the consensus, or just the last part of that sentence? Makes no difference to me.
Well, you get that too, where they're being notified by the planning board by mail already.
I
That's
agree.
Yeah.
adjoining landowners. That doesn't do anything about the person that's one lot over, or has to drive by it
Gotcha.
for the rest of their life. That's the only reason I see for having it in.
And it's in the paper.
But do you still put them in the paper, or you just put them on the website?
Both, if it's a public
Okay.
hearing, yep.
Like I say, I don't care one way or the other, it's just, the 50 foot is a joke.
I know in the 1800s and early 1900s, you can look in the courthouse and the notifications, some of them, they used to have a piece of cloth with it written on the cloth that they hung on one fence post. And
That was it.
That was it. Because there was no putting it in the newspaper or anything. You put it, you went by on your horse galloping too fast, you missed it. But I always thought that was neat, that they saved them all.
Yeah,
What's the consensus with
Strike
Let's
it.
strike
B3?
it.
Strike the whole thing? Okay.
yeah.
Are you keeping this on your copy?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm looking at the law too, to see what it says about that.
Nicole's covering our backs.
I understand what you're saying on that construction timing on 1G, but I still think that we need an opinion as to whether or not it's legal to offer them the bond, because if they're gonna come in, if they're in that big of a hurry, that's no different than what I was trying to do with the man camps.
Yeah.
Let business control what's there. The control for the county comes from the security that if you don't do it according to Hoyle, you're gonna lose. Personally, I can see no negative to that, other than the fact if it's not legal. Anything else on page 15? Anything on page 16? Anything on page 17?
we don't have
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Anything on page 18?
I have to admit, when it comes to like appeals or anything, I don't know, have we had any, Herb? That we had, because my ignorance, I can proclaim my ignorance on schedule fees, that's all in the code, handles all of that. Appeals, they go.
We have had an appeal after final, within the 30 days. But that wouldn't apply to this board, because once it's
Yeah,
received
it's-
preliminary, it's gone from your purview.
Well, that's something, the appeal comes after the commission has acted on it.
Correct.
Right. Let them take the heat.
I would imagine that that's in MCA.
It is
I
actually.
don't know,
Yes,
but that-
and they file with district court.
Okay, anything on page 19, or are we done with 18? Anything
I
else?
believe so.
Yep.
Anything on 19?
Nope.
Okay, we go to general procedures, page 20. Does anybody have anything there?
On the pre-applications, now we do want to have lists for Nicole.
That's covered in,
Yes, there, but do we
Second.
need to not have that mentioned in here? Or if not, that's okay, but,
I don't think that we necessarily need it mentioned in here. And to reference the list, I don't think that that's necessary.
and how do you feel about these lists of all the things that they want on there?
This is what I asked for currently, so that I agree with it. No change.
okay. Any objections on page 20? '21.
I do have a question on 21. So one of the items, B4, so number 4 at the very top, B states documentation on the current status of the site, including, number 4, rights of first refusal for the property. Are those recorded typically? And I'm asking this because I don't know. I've never seen those. I've never requested those.
Now, where are we at, what's
Right
Page
here.
21.
rights of the first refusal for property?
Right.
Sometimes they're recorded on the deed. You get a first right of refusal on the property.
And so it would show on the deed,
I would think so,
most
yes.
likely. Okay, good. And I did, yeah. I've never had to deal with that before, so I would want to know what exactly am I asking for and or looking for?
My guess, and you could check that with Jerry or with Tara, is that has to do with mineral rights. Because the mineral rights and the surface rights can be separate. Anywhere in the state. You can have a portion, just because you own the ground doesn't mean you own the mineral rights under the ground. Or you may own a certain percent of it. It depends on what's there. That would be my guess.
Okay.
That's more of a notification of how are the mineral rights split up, so that if it went through a subdivision, and the whole parcel only had 50% right, that would need to be on the plat so that they could come in and drill underneath your property. It's kind of like, the hell town was it? Baker down there where they came in and line drilled for oil
Oil.
under the entire town.
Okay, yeah, and I would just need to know what it is I'm asking for. If I'm asking people to provide this, I should probably know what
Well.
I'm asking for.
Just a minor
I
formality.
just,
No, I think it'd be wise, just,
I
get
just
it,
thought
get a
it was-
definition on it.
I always thought the first right of refusal for property was if somebody gave you first right of refusal, if they sold anything, you had the first right to buy it.
and that is typically shown on the deed you're saying, I've just never seen it, so that's.
I believe it has
where
to
it
be
is.
on the
Okay.
deed or,
Yeah,
to
it
record
should
it,
need to
okay.
be on the deed, I would
Okay.
think, but if they put it in there and Tara blessed it, then she ought to be able to define what it is. So just, to me, it'd be asked for the definition.
Right. Okay.
Okay, anything else on 21? Twenty-two. Twenty-three.
Oh, I
Just
have some
second.
things written here. Stormwater, number 7. Move with a preliminary DEQ. 9. Title report date no more than 6 months prior to the date of preliminary plat submittal at final. When do they do that?
I'm sorry, what item are you looking at?
Number
Number
9.
Number 9, thank you. So currently, I ask for it at final, but I should be asking for it at preliminary also. So that does need to be there,
So it should be at preliminary.
correct, and at final also, if it's longer than 6 months from preliminary.
Okay.
do we have to insert and final on that then?
No, because this is just items to be in the preliminary
Okay.
plat application.
And number 18, approach access encroachment permits, is that at preliminary?
Yes,
Okay. Road maintenance agreement, is that applicable? Or,
sometimes, yep, not for everyone. And so that's part of the pre-application meeting, when I sit down with the developer and we can cross out some of
oh, we
these,
got that.
if they're not applicable to their specific subdivision.
I have 27, the owners association. You get all that draft in the preliminary or,
Yes. Yep.
okay? Letter requesting removal of the agricultural covenants,
Yep,
that's before?
yep.
And all of this is in variance requests, which they would know before. An engineer study, that studies the base flood elevation, if required.
If required, or our language now states a FEMA firm panel map depicting the floodplain, if applicable.
Our floodplain maps like we have at the courthouse,
Mhm.
those.
I think
Not
those-
this 2000 thing,
No, I think the 2000,
horizontal distance, which we go into great detail in here.
oh, okay.
And I got the maps in my car.
So they would have to get an engineering study? done?
That's what this is stating. But for ours, basically you just need to, say, this is the FEMA, what is it called, the firm panel map from FEMA, showing here's the floodplain, here's my development. They're well away from each other.
No.
And that satisfies that.
Okay.
So
As
we
opposed
need,
to having the BFE done by an engineer, because I'm going to use your property as an example. We know it's out of the floodplain, so what would be the point in forcing you to hire an engineer to perform the BFE if we know the floodplain is well away from your property? So
So-
I think that one should go if it can.
I think it should go.
absolutely.
I mean, they should provide the maps,
The
and maybe
FEMA map.
if there was a floodplain issue, they would have to do a study, but,
That's the way we've been doing it,
okay.
yes.
And that's what the consultant is for, because Jerry's actually a floodplain manager. And they're contracted with the county, so,
So we're gonna take number 34 out?
Well,
yep.
And I would like to suggest that we use our current language that states that you provide the
Perfect.
FEMA map.
absolutely,
Just showing so that we can say, yes, here's the FEMA map, here's the property,
right.
check the box.
Who was the gentleman we had in here a couple weeks ago that he had to pay $10,000 to have, to prove that
Bill
his...
Petrovich, I thought he was coming today. I called him because he's the only one I know that has actual floodplain experience. He's my neighbor across the river.
Yeah, and he really had a time, and to prove that he wasn't in the floodplain.
Well, according to him, when I talked to him about it, he did the research. Some of it came from the then sanitarian that hadn't done their research and told him he couldn't do it. So he went ahead and got all the information and force-fed it to them, and they said, oh, yes, you can. But he did the right thing, because most of his property is in the floodplain, but his
House.
septic, his house is in the floodplain. But
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
septic,
It's right on the edge of the
It is,
Missouri
yeah.
River. Yeah.
yeah, one good ice jam and he'll be able to fish from his porch.
Did he
But,
elevate his house at all?
His septic
Not
system
much.
is several hundred feet to the north and quite a bit higher out of the floodplain.
Denny's house, yeah, that's the only place, I think, on his property there that he could put
Mostly,
that.
it's
septic
certainly the
system.
closest. It's clear
Yeah.
up north of Watson's
Yeah, yeah.
on the other side there.
So 28 is actually, we're gonna leave that, and get rid of 34, right? Because 28 is requiring the map.
Oh, yep,
So 34 is totally a,
Yeah,
Process.
I just wrote it as a remove.
okay.
Helen is getting your copy printed right now. She'll be here shortly.
It won't have all the
Anything else
fun
on
little
23?
things that this one has.
Okay, Herb, what did you just say, sir?
So is there anything else on 23? Any other?
You had brought up number 7 on page 22. Jenny.
Stormwater drainage plan.
Oh, that, I had, moved with the preliminary that goes with DEQ.
Okay.
I think that's covered up there above that because it's submitted to the governing body or the agent or agency designated by the governing body
Okay.
in terms of all of this other stuff. So
Yeah.
that's a good catch. Okay. Anything else on 22 or 23? Anything on 24?
Why do I have an A there? Let's see, does it pertain back to A?
Anything on 25?
I have just one thing, but I was looking back and forth, I had scribblies. D also should refer to A, I would think.
On page 24.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you explain that? What do you mean D should refer to A?
Aren't they both basically the same?
No.
The subdivision determines the elements are missing from the application. You shall identify these elements in notification and take no further, let me get my glasses, action. D, if the applicant does not submit information to correct the deficiencies.
To correct deficiencies.
Okay.
So when someone submits an application, if they're missing elements, so A is when they turn it in and they're missing an
they screw
element,
it
and
up.
I say, hey, you're missing a signature page. If they don't send it back within 180 days, then I terminate the file.
Gotcha.
Do you have to notify them that they're missing?
Yes, definitely.
It doesn't say that on number A, does it say that somewhere?
Well, it doesn't say it on A, but D, before it's terminated.
Okay,
Yeah, so element review, I shall give written notice to the subdivider of the subdivision administrator's determination. So I have 5 days, or the planner would have 5 days to review it and then notify in writing.
seems like it's broken up in a lot of different places.
The one this letter B, so the subdivider shall submit additional information to correct the deficiencies. Additional materials must be submitted in the form of 2 paper copies and 1 electronic copy. I just need 1 paper copy.
Okay.
I don't keep an e-file of every subdivision application.
And not everybody can e-file.
Can do that, yeah. So I would prefer that to say 1 paper copy, period. And the reason for that, I've had developers send me electronic copies of the deficiencies that are 70 and 80 pages worth of deficiencies that they email. I don't think the burden should be on the county to have to print those. They should have to print them and mail them. And I know it's very insignificant, but it all adds up. So I don't
Well,
even
and
want to be
emails
requesting.
can get lost very
Right.
easily.
Yeah, so I don't even want to be requesting an electronic copy.
Any other changes on 24?
Once again, I'm adding E to A, which I'm sure Nicole will explain the same, that if it's submitted and resubmitted, then the process shall be repeated and the application contains detailed supporting information that is sufficient for review of these regulations. The application is terminated or withdrawn. Could they not be combined as one, or do you want them kept separate?
I want them separate because terminated is done by the county, withdrawn is done by the developer.
Okay.
So the same under sub-item B, or B, sub-item B, sufficiency review. I would like that to say one paper copy. The last sentence.
Okay.
Anything else on 24? $25. $26.
On 26C3, would that not be DEQ? Or do you want the DEQ's paperwork submitted with it to you? Or is it just DEQ, water and our septic proposals?
Yeah, that is tough, isn't it? Because what they submitted to the county in preliminary may differ from what DEQ approves. So if, yeah, that.
Doesn't it also matter how big the lots are? 20 acres versus?
Yep. Yeah, anything less than 20 goes to DEQ for review, so if DEQ, who is the authority on water and septic on parcels less than 20 acres, requires a change or a moving or an amendment to the water and septic, I don't know that we as a county can consider that a material change and require them to go back through the process. I mean, that just doesn't seem fair. You know, if DEQ is the authority and they're requiring the change, why are we punishing the developer for complying with DEQ? Is that what you were saying, to remove it, Jenny?
That I just wasn't sure that it would have to come back to you, or could it be out and just DEQ, or if DEQ still has to do it.
Right.
But do you want it back to you, what DEQ says?
Right. Putting it into practical use, if someone were to be forced into that situation to come back through, and this is called a material change, so they have to go back through the process. I mean, really, what would it be? Okay, DEQ says you have to move it. This board and the county commissioners, nor myself, have any authority to require them to do anything different.
Right.
You're at the mercy of what DEQ is telling you to do. So I think if we can remove that, that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Well, these are only on amended applications. If you go back to the bottom of 25, that's what that is talking about. So are there any changes on 26?
So just so I understand, if they change any of these conditions in C, they have to go back to you? Is that?
Correct, and do an amended preliminary plat.
Okay.
So the other one I can see on here that we could potentially get rid of is changes to proposed covenants. What if you decide to amend your covenants to only allow pink houses? You know, as a developer, you want only pink houses in your development, but you haven't decided this until you're working through the process. Should that, I mean, in here, essentially, it's a material change. It's changes to proposed covenants. And as we know, covenants can be amended by the developer without going through the commissioners, as long as they're not commission-required covenants. They can be amended by the developer without going through the planning board, myself, or the commissioners. I mean, typically when covenants are amended, I don't even know that it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's after the fact, I would like to consider eliminating number 8 also.
I
Changes
agree.
to proposed covenants.
Okay.
As long
Sure.
as it's not commission-required covenants. But that's,
We can't change those.
yeah, you
That's
can't change
in-
those anyway.
No, those have to be on the plat, and the way this thing reads, they may or may not have been placed on it at that point in time.
That is true.
Because they're talking about it before a public hearing on a major or before action on a minor. So they haven't been placed on it, so, yeah, I've got no problem. I think that's a good catch.
The easement provisions,
That one I can see where it could be relevant. Utilities, driveway easements, so if the driveway easement is amending, if the utility easement is amending, where would that matter? I guess as long as they had access to public utilities, but driveway easements, if those were moving or amending, we would want to be sure that each lot still had access. Or if the easement was being proposed as a private access easement or a public access easement, I think that would be relevant to the discussion for review of a subdivision. I don't know, I could go either way on that one.
Any other thoughts on 26? I've got delete C8 on the covenants.
And,
3 and
and
8.
3 if we can.
Yep.
3 and 8, yeah.
Mhm.
on what page? Oh, I see.
26.
Did I hear 3 and 4 or just 3?
3 and
3
8.
and 8.
3 and 8.
3 and 8, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, we got no more on that one. Any changes on 27?
I have to admit, a lot of those, I don't know, that's really just leave it up to Nicole. I maybe put too much on you, Nicole, that you handle all of this and we don't assist you in any way, shape, or form.
Well, at this point of the review, where we're at in the regulations, you would. If there's a material change, I mean, that certainly comes before this board. You know, I don't feel I have the authority to make the decision that it's a material change, so that's why it would come to this board. We would compare the amendment to the preliminary, or pre-preliminary, right, because I think we're still in pre-preliminary. If there's an amendment, then that would be a discussion at the table, that's what I'm saying. To say, well, we think this is material because it goes against this list, or it's not material and we can keep moving forward. That's my thought.
So anything on 27? Okay, how about 28?
Are we gonna get rid of the ones we got rid of on page 26? The covenants? Would be number 8.
I would say yes. And at
Number
this
3 and
point-
8.
Number 3 and 8. At this point, we are now into the commissioner's side of it, because this is, you know, preliminary plats. So this board has recommended preliminary, the commissioners have granted preliminary. They're now in that holding period between preliminary and before final. So if they make a change to anything, You know, you've given this developer preliminary plat approval, obviously configuration of lots, that's a material change, road layout, yes. Water and septic, however, I think that that's a good one to eliminate again. Because DEQ typically has not given their approval at preliminary. DEQ gives their approval post-preliminary, pre-final, so in this exact period that we're holding here. So if DEQ states there needs to be a change to water and septic proposals, again, I don't think that we should be interfering in that.
Right.
And the same with the covenants.
Yeah. Okay. What I've got was we're gonna delete B3 and 8 on page 28. Are there any other changes?
Oh, on page 28, 3 and 8.
8.
Exactly, the same
Mhm.
as before.
Okay. Anything on 29?
I have, do we want? On number 3, prior to granting an extension greater than 3 years past the original signed statement of original preliminary plat approval for a major subdivision, the governing body must hold a public hearing. Notice of the public hearing must be given by notification, newspaper, or general circulation in the county not less than 15 days prior to the date of hearing. And I have written down their case law, and I don't have it here.
Yeah, so do I, and I think that, to me, that would be a clarification to Jerry, because I think we asked that at the original Zoom meeting, and I think that's why you and I both have case law on it, because we asked about it at that point in time, and that was his response. If it's case law, then it's got to stand.
In case law, it's a Legacy Ranch case versus Ravalli County.
I can't hear you.
Legacy Ranch versus Ravalli County is the case law, if you want to look it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Not that you have to, and I will ask
As
Jerry to
long as it's
clarify.
case law, to me, it stays, so
Good
it's a moot
enough,
point.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
only
we're not
question
fighting
is,
it.
you know, is 3 case law, and if so, okay.
I will still ask him, but I'm certain that that's the case law he's referring to.
We're getting into fun stuff now.
Heavy duty stuff now.
Well, we've made it an hour and 20 minutes, so that's good.
No other changes on 29, how about 30?
Oh, yes. 30 and 31. Okay, final plat review here. Number 4. Information such as certified engineering plans, pictures of the site, or other documentation supporting how the conditions have been met as outlined in the applicant's written statement. We want all of that in one statement.
I'd pose
And-
that one to Nicole, because we don't have anything to do with final plat.
No, we don't.
But we're putting it in this document, so,
I
And
don't know
then-
why.
And number 6, acknowledgement from all lien holders that everything's okay, or is that required in preliminary?
No, it's not required in preliminary, and this is currently required at final. So if someone is developing a piece of property and there's a bank note on it, maybe a mortgage, the bank just has to say, we agree to this development.
Okay,
So that, yeah, that one is important.
so it is
I can't
important.
figure out how 4 would be applied, though.
And they have to have all road plans and profiles, state or local encroachment permits, and traffic studies if required.
So these are items that we actually would put as conditions of approval anyway, if I'm reading this appropriately. So going back to number 4, information such as certified engineering plans. Well, we would build that in as a condition of approval that the developer's engineer has approved the construction of, I'm gonna say the road, and they've been built to specifications.
Right.
So I think it's redundant having it in here because we're actually building that language into our condition of approval.
That was a good pun. Building it. And number, the next one, all engineering plans, all of that.
Yes. Yeah, so I guess. I just feel that this is redundant to have all of these in here. Obviously, the final plot application and the review fee, as well as number 3. And a written statement, I don't necessarily require a statement, just evidence proving that the developer has met that condition of approval. But each of these items in here, you know, all engineering plans, DEQ, that's already typically our condition number 2, condition number 1 or 2. So I think we can actually eliminate 3 through, what is this that's taxing my brain here? 13.
Wonderful.
And put in there, or maybe amend number 3 to state evidence showing that the developer has met each condition of preliminary plat approval.
Perfect. It's short and sweet.
Yeah,
Yep, that's simpler.
because those, I mean, that's what we need. We need the application, we need the fee, I need each item, you know, showing how you've met that condition, and I need your plats. That's it. Everything else in here is basically already in our conditions.
So we're eliminating, just so I understand,
3 through 13, but including, it would be a new number 3, to state evidence proving how the developer has met each condition of approval. Unless someone has better language.
You're the one that handles it, so you know what's best.
Okay,
so then we just have 14 there?
Correct, and it would become number 4.
anything on the review of subdivisions from there down, small b down?
The review subdivisions, I have to ask Nicole, it says within 20 working days. Is that appropriate for you?
Yep, and that is according to MCA.
That is MCA. Okay.
Okay, so no other changes. I put 30 and 31 since those went over, that we're gonna eliminate 3 through 13
Correct.
and replace it with the evidence requirement. Okay. Anything on 32?
We're cruising right along.
That's a quarter of the way through. Anything on 33? 34. $35. Well, we need to keep on this roll. We'll be-
Well, I think all this is the commissioners and not us.
Yep. 36. Okay. 37.
Oh, I had to look it up and I didn't do it.
Any changes or questions on 38?
Okay. Well, that's water rights. I had to look up 4 and 5 and I didn't do it. But I see it's just a water course and water easements, and I'm assuming that it's that they have the rights to it. It's not that 2,000 thing.
Shut up.
I know the feeling.
Isn't that mostly MCA?
Yeah, I'm sure that it's not that new thing.
Okay.
And it has MCA 76.
Are we, yeah, they reference it down towards the end there. So is there anything on 38?
No.
39?
No. I'm sure they covered.
And this, yeah, it's mostly from MCA as well.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said this is mostly from MCA as well.
Okay, so we're good on 39. How about 40? I've got some question marks on mine, but I don't remember what the question was about.
See, I have mine too, Herb, and we've had so many to look through. You and I just must have been on the same pages. And I have question mark there.
Because from D2 and 3 and 4, I think what my question mark was is there an example for those three? Because to me, that's something new that I'm not used to seeing.
I can't believe it.
It may just be worded different, but. If you take the bottom half of 2, that's part of our commission required conditions or covenants. So that part of it makes sense. It may just be the way the thing's written. It just didn't seem to, when you say special rules, it kind of jumped out at me, that's all.
I can't believe I didn't write more.
And you're on page 40?
Mm-hmm. D2, 3, and 4, I had question marks on.
I think, isn't that the subdivision regs right now? If it's over 20?
Yes, if it's over 20, then the sanitarian reviews it, and what we have now is an appendix M, as in Mary, for sanitation review. But I don't know if,
How does it read to you, Nicole? I mean, it just, those were the only ones that I saw that didn't necessarily fit all that well in this particular instance. At least I didn't understand it. I won't say it didn't fit.
D2 makes sense to me, because DEQ is saying, so item D2 is for parcels less than 20, so they're having DEQ approval. DEQ is saying, okay, according to stormwater, groundwater, soil profiles, all of that, we feel that this is the appropriate location for the well, the drain field, and the septic. However, we're not saying that you're going to hit water here, and we're not saying that your septic system is never going to fail here. Just according to the calculations, this is the best location. So D2 can make sense to me. I can process that. D3 is what I'm having trouble with. How does the subdivider demonstrate? It states the subdivider shall demonstrate that there is an adequate water source. How? Unless you're drilling a well. How does the developer prove that there's an adequate water source?
Don't we have that on the plat that, we can't sue the commissioners over earthquake or lack of water?
Yes, that's one of the commission required covenants that's in there. But so I don't understand. I don't know how is the developer going to prove that short of drilling a well. Because you can look at your neighbor's wells. All of that information is available. Through GWIC, you can look at anybody's wells. But does that mean that you are going to have an acceptable water source right at this location where you drill? No. So how does the developer prove that?
Do they have when you create a 20, excuse me, you get a 10-acre water right, per se?
10 acre feet, yes.
Yes. Do they have to prove that there's enough water?
That's not necessarily proving. I mean, that's just a right you receive. You are allowed 10 acre feet of water. That doesn't mean you're going to hit 10 acre feet of water.
Correct, but isn't there a regulation where you have to have so many acre feet to make so many lots?
And no, that's not a regulation so much as a DNRC.
It's DNRC, and it's a limitation on the amount of water that you can use because it's an exempt well.
So it's more of a limitation. But the way I'm reading 3 is that the developer has to demonstrate that there's an adequate water source. And I just don't know what that looks like. I don't know how would I tell someone coming in that wants to develop, I say, hey, you have to show that there's an adequate water source, and they say, okay, how do I do that?
You'd have to drill.
You have to drill a well?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know any other way.
That's like saying, guarantee that lightning will never strike this piece of land.
Right.
There's certain things you just can't do without having to put up lightning rods.
How about what we send on to Jerry, then we delete 3 unless he can come up with an example of why it is legal or how it would be done, because I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it just
Wait a
makes
minute,
no
that
sense.
never happens that we agree. So
Occasionally.
lightning is gonna strike.
Never can tell what I put in my coffee.
Yeah, whatever it is, keep drinking it.
Thank heavens for
Okay, so I'll question Jerry on number 3 then.
Yeah, I would say delete it unless he can defend it, would be the way I would note it.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on 40? $41.
I had something, but I can't figure it out, so we'll pass on it. Can't be that bad.
What item was it?
Hmm?
Did you have an item marked that you were,
I put these little slips of paper in there, and I have a J and a question mark, and there's no J,
okay.
unless it's Jenny.
D,
But I read all of those, and
they're
they
okay, all right,
seem
Well,
okay.
that's why
moving right along.
before you got here, Mary, I said we were gonna blame all of this on Nicole, because she's the one that kept postponing the meeting, because with my memory, I can't remember what I read, and I have read everything that was here, all the pages. I just don't remember what I
I don't
read,
remember.
and what my thinking was at the time. Okay, I didn't hear anything on 41, 42.
3C, subdivision creating no more than 2 lots that satisfies all 11 criteria set forth below may qualify for speeded up review. The review is by the subdivision administrator, followed by a governing body decision, and does not go before the planning board. To be considered for the speeded up review process, proposed minor subdivision must meet the following.
Yeah, we've never done an expedited or speeded up review before.
Yeah.
So this is kind of,
Do we want to do it? I mean, would it be neat to have it?
I don't like it personally.
How do you feel about that, Herb? Mary?
Looks to me like we can kill 3.5 pages with one stone, just delete 3C.
Agreed.
Because that runs all the way through, that's 42, 43. Well, that's good. I had a question on 43 anyway, so we're getting rid of it. 44,
Here's a
all the way up through 45
Yep,
is deleted.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. And a lot of the bearing is on Nicole. So we just took
That's
it
why I
out.
don't like it. I still want every development to come through the planning board. I think it's imperative to have your look at all of these too.
Well-
I just don't know why they would think that would be a good idea. I'm sure they have justification.
Somebody's interpretation
well, we don't
of
like it, so it's over.
No, it's-
some
we have to
minor
have it.
statement
It's
in
law.
MCA, because as far as I'm concerned, MCA says it has to come to the planning board. That's why you have to have one. So, okay, we're up to 46.
That was my apology.
that includes page 45 on that
Yeah,
expedited?
I deleted
Okay.
everything in 3C, which goes all the way through page from 42 through 45.
45.
Okay.
$46. My only question was, is it an MCA, but there's nothing wrong, and I know that Nicole likes it because it gives her a, or
It
you said
is-
you liked it
I
anyway.
do like it. I like the visual, but I'm not going to arm wrestle anybody over it.
It is, we do have it in MC, that MCA, that it is in here.
You say it is, Jenny?
Yes, ma'am, yes, sir. 763609,
Okay. Then
page 113 in the blue book.
I take your word for it. It stays. If it's law, it stays.
Well, I hated being wrong. I mean, the
I used
idea-
to, but I'm wrong so much anymore that
Yeah.
I just get used to it.
Yes, I don't know why, irked me to go all the way back to 73. I think that's the point. I mean, if they not even said go back to 73, I would have accepted it, but you have
You
to.
know why 73? Because that's when the new constitution went in.
That's when the new law, yes. That's why 73. But the idea that you have to go all the way back then is just,
Okay, so 46 is done. Any comments, changes? 47. $48. $49.
moving along.
We're going like the wind.
$50. $51. $52.
I have governing body meeting consideration of new information, and I didn't underline what part, maybe the whole thing.
And can we go back to 51 real quick?
Okay,
I think we need to make the same amendment on item C as we did for the minors. So this is amended applications after the public hearing. C3 water and septic, that's still out of our purview.
Oh, good
And the
catch.
covenant.
good catch.
Yep.
So if that's changed, we can't fix that.
That's what we were gonna say, right, Jen?
That's right, we're right here.
And although I do understand, so bear with me here, because I don't have an answer. I do understand why, so the next item, item number 8, which we removed before the covenants. So to throw out a scenario, if a subdivision developer comes in and he says, my covenants state I am not going to allow for a mother-in-law or a secondary home. Okay, so you know you're getting one home on each lot. And then after, so that's at the public hearing, the public is here, they hear this comment, they understand this. But then after the public hearing, which is where we are in the book here, in the review process, we're after the public hearing, but before the commissioners, before preliminary. And then the developer says, I've been thinking about it, and I really would like to allow for mother-in-law homes or a guest house or a secondary dwelling on my lot. So not to say a further subdivision, owning the main house, guest house on the property. So that he's amending the covenants after the public hearing when when he or she, the developer, stated that there would only be one dwelling unit per lot, but now we're amending that covenant.
But you can amend them now and after they're
Right.
filed and everything. I mean,
Right, exactly. So he could, what you're saying, if I'm understanding that correctly, just because he's amending them after the public hearing, he could wait until everything is filed and say, you know what, I'm going to amend these covenants right now, because it's not a commission required covenant, to allow for a secondary dwelling. I don't know.
That sounds like it would be less complicated, or if he waited and did it afterwards.
I mean, if you allow them to change them later, I don't know why that would even be in here.
Now, right?
Right, and then, as people build in there, they can get a consensus and change the covenants anyways.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, I don't understand.
You did. Perfect. And then that copy. Yep.
That's it.
Thank you.
It's
Still hot.
yeah,
Still hot.
ink was low. So.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Geez, this
You wanna
isn't
use
near as
this
much
one?
fun as yours.
You can copy Jenny's notes as we're going.
Yours is deadening.
Okay, so I'm just saying, looking at it from both sides, whatever you think.
It doesn't matter to me.
I
it
think
should be-
we ought to delete them because it's kind of like what Mary's saying, why in the world complicate something that they can just,
Do anything.
You know, if they come in and tell you that,
Right.
why should you even be bothered with it? Just say, wait until after the fact. You can change them anyway.
Right.
Okay, so eliminate it?
Yeah, less is better when it comes to any of this stuff, you know.
there's no reason we should complicate things by requiring something that we can't do anything about. So I got 51 and 52, delete C3 and C8. Anything else on 52? '53. '54. '55. We're nearing the halfway point.
On number 5, page 55, I like C, the governing body may consider the weight of the following. I like that. May, not shall.
Mhm.
Which one was this?
Under C.
Gotcha.
The governing body may. That means they can, but they don't have to, because it usually says shall, which means they will.
Yeah,
So like B is a shall because it's from MCA. C is a suggestion.
Yeah,
Yes.
so no changes on 55.
No.
56. Kind of comes, this is the special rules again. For my money, I'd say we delete D3 just like we did previously.
Which one's that one, Herb?
It's the exact same verbiage.
3, under D3, water
D3.
Small
sanitation.
d,
Okay.
small 3.
Gotcha.
Because you're asking the subdivider, saying that they shall demonstrate. Any other comments? Disagreements? We record 56 as deleting D3.
Yep.
Yep. I thought 6 feet.
Okay, anything on 57?
There.
'58. Anything on 59?
I have BC. At least the governing body may, I underline may, and then suitable potential hazards such as flooding, snow avalanche, rock falls, whatever type. High voltage lines, high gas lines, pressure gas lines. Don't we have like old Watsons and all those out there, people build
Yeah, my
out there
backyard.
under those power lines?
Yeah, you have to, I've had experience with that. You have to get a hold of the gas line company and you have to work with them to make sure that they're in agreement with the subdivision, but,
So what we just have to do is they have to get hold of the governing, the business,
exactly.
power company or whatever.
Yeah, the utility
Okay.
business, yeah.
And there are federal transportation regulations that are based on density in terms of what the requirements are for building around power or gas line.
Okay.
I've seen gas lines, well, Dennis and I both have a gas line going down our driveway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, when you
big
cross
one.
the River Road, go over there.
Well, that's not as bad as the natural gas.
no,
Even natural gas has them, but the feds only require that the automatic shutoffs are closer based upon density per mile surrounding it.
So are there any changes, or everybody happy with 59? Okay. Just checking ahead here, we only have to get another 3 or 4 pages and we're half done.
You might want to take some Prozac or something before we get to that.
Well, I realize that when we get to the back end, because there's a whole bunch of, we're about to the point where we can say delete everything past.
On page 61 on for a while, it's just pure controversy.
Okay,
On page 59, are we gonna make any modifications to that VC that you,
I didn't hear any.
Well, I think the fact that it says may in there,
Yeah,
that's very wide open.
and the one on the floodplain, I don't find offensive because it says if it has been found.
Has been identified, and you use the maps.
So
It
that's
says the
what the
maps
rest of it
adopted
is.
by the governing body, and they
Yeah.
have.
so if you had a piece of land, like I do, with the gas line on it, and the governing body says, no, you can't develop it, I guess I don't understand.
That's your appeal process for them overstepping
Okay.
their boundary to say, here's federal, state owner requirements. You know, hopefully there's a little more reason than that, but that's, to me, is the route that would be taken.
Do they have setbacks? I mean, that
Yeah,
you can build within such a distance of the lines?
Depending, the state and the feds and/or the utility will
uh-huh.
have requirements. If you can comply with all 3 of those, the county doesn't have a leg to stand on.
Oh, okay.
the development's more strict, isn't it, under that high tension line, Herb, that comes through your place than it is over the gas lines that we could have going the other direction?
Yeah, maybe.
For distance, I mean. For actual physical distance from the center point.
I don't honestly know on that, because
I
it was
don't either.
existing. I didn't find anything when Misty was coming through. There was a lot of stuff. The biggest problem I had with that, with Misty, when they wanted to come through, was they didn't want to put it next to the power line.
Right.
Because they were going, somebody in Washington said that, well, suppose the 747 flew through the line, they could take both lines down with one. I'm going, who in the world's going to come from Broadwater County, Montana to down the line? They're going to do it someplace out.
Yeah,
Go out and set
coal
it.
strip.
Well, they go set a charge on one of the, you know, who's going to waste a multi-million-dollar plane and all that other stuff to be spectacular. Go set a charge and blow a tower and the line falls over into each other and you're done, so. The only problem I have here with this one after that is the fact that because now then with the floodplain provisions, that's when we get into all the pretty pictures. And I consider it to be redundant based on the floodplain requirements in FEMA. I just see it as flogging a dead horse. They got lots of pretty pictures.
So you're proposing just to put in here something about the,
Well, I'm almost to the point where I would just, because they refer to the figure, I'm back on page 59. In 5DB, in terms of the base flood elevation, basically what I'm seeing is that we just draw a line across there and everything that pertained to that, because of the redundancy, all the way over to the top of page 62 would be deleted. Because it really boils down to what the interpretation is from the floodplain administrator, i.e. Jerry, and currently, and the specifics of that, rather than requiring a diagram for a layout for no build zone in these areas and so on and so forth. I just see it as being, you're trying to put a rule on top of a rule to look good. And I don't see any reason for it.
Herb, I couldn't have said it better myself. Perfect.
Does anybody disagree?
So all the way to page 62, out.
Yeah, basically, we would just draw a line under A, between A and B, and on page 59 from B, page 60, 61, up until 5E, improvement design, would be deleted.
Perfect.
So all of 5DB, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
5DB in its entirety. That's a better way to put it, but
I certainly don't want to be making any determinations on the base flood elevation.
what's
I
that?
don't want to be making any determinations on the base flood elevation and how to review that. I think,
Yeah, it's totally redundant as far as I'm concerned. That's the reason all of the stuff on the floodplain, in my personal opinion, could be deleted because we can't change FEMA. There's federal, or not FEMA, but the floodplain itself. Why in the world waste paper, words, time trying to look good? Make it look like, you know, that's kind of like the vegan that's coming up eating steak or something. You know, you want to look good, but you're going to go do it anyway. So why in the heck waste everybody's time trying to do it?
so basically you're required to follow those regulations and we don't need to repeat it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no reason to have it there because we can't change.
They
the
supersede
floodplain.
all
They
what we do.
supersede everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
And it's going to be the interpretation of the floodplain administrator and so on and so
Okay.
forth. Once we have a designee who signs off on it, as in a professional engineer, the liability becomes theirs, not the county.
Okay.
The
Right
biggest
now.
reason for complying, well, maybe not 100%, but the biggest reason for complying with the floodplain regs is if you had an event, then the feds legally can withhold funds, remediating funds, if somewhere along the line they proved that you ignored them. So we just do what we have to and don't get too excited about the rest of it.
And we haven't had any problems with it in the past.
You know, the only, and not really problems, they've all been signed off on with, but they've had to go through things like what Bill did. There's a guy down at the south end of the county that literally built on an island. But he
Yeah, I
managed to get it certified that it wasn't an impediment to the flood flows. This is down on the Jefferson, cleared out almost to the county line. He's literally.
West of 3 Forks, west on the river.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
actually west, this is actually clear down by Chuck's house, almost to Willow Creek, almost
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
bridge.
yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking.
So,
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, there's only a few paragraphs in Broadwater. In the floodplain stuff.
So we take it out on page 62 down to where?
Start on, yeah, let's start on 62, Roman numeral 5E, improvement design.
Down to there, okay.
Read 5FC.
B, yes.
C is in Charlie.
Oh, C is in child. I had B.
So did I. We'll start with B and come back to yours.
Okay.
I have no problem with the first part of it, but after the parenthesis, I see that it's very much like the rest of it. It's kind of wordy. How in the heck can you say that you can't, if something's pre-existing, saying it can't be divided by, it doesn't say you can't subdivide, you just put it alongside of it and allow the room. We've already got the public road. Ours says under 20 acres, I think. A 20-acre plot, you could do it.
So what does this mean, that no single, I guess I don't understand it.
Saying that you can't split a lot when on the plat with anything that's listed in that sentence.
So if there were anything listed in that sentence, you couldn't subdivide that?
If you put, when you came into your subdivision,
Mhm.
if you put lot one on both sides of the road, that's a no-no.
Okay,
Or
And
both
what it's
sides of
doing is including all of this stuff in with it,
okay.
you know. To me, it's already in our standards.
Well, they
Why?
have, okay, so you're saying take it out?
To me, yeah, I have a bit of a problem with the emergency access gas or oil pipeline easement.
That's what I have a problem with, the gas or oil pipeline easement, because we have lots that go across the pipeline, and you could divide it up and on each side of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to take B out?
I would, just because, I mean, the irrigation easement, that's state law because it never goes away. But anything after the parenthesis mark, after that comma, in B, in my mind, the emergency access, gas, oil, pipeline, I mean, how can you require
a second egress, which is what they're talking about with emergency access, and saying you can't split a lot with it. That's just me, but anybody disagree?
You could put it on the lot line.
Yeah. But the idea being is that it's just way too wordy. They've used 20 where 10 would suffice. Okay, now you said C or D on yours.
B. I don't agree with removing that on B, but I will mark it anyway.
Why don't you?
I like the explanation of it. Public rights of way or easement, so an emergency access, that's an easement. But I like the explanation of an emergency access easement. Gas or oil pipeline easements, those are easements. I like the explanation of it. Because if we're saying no single lot may be divided by these accesses or these easements, I like the description.
So we can't divide a lot with an emergency exit going through it?
Why would you need to, I guess? Why could you not put that emergency exit on the lot boundary line? Why would you put it right through the middle of it? Why would you configure your lots to have that access through the middle?
Suppose the boundary line's up here on the hill, like ours at Ray Creek,
Okay,
and the exit, emergency exit would go down here alongside by our house. But we couldn't do that. It's just emergency exit, but you can't put it on the boundary line because it's up on the hill.
an emergency access though would be for more than one property. It wouldn't necessarily have to be just for the one.
So if you have a 20-acre parcel and I'm trying to understand this, if you have a pipeline that runs through it, you cannot subdivide that into more lots?
No, you could. You would just have to configure your lots to take into consideration that easement. So don't build your lots with that easement running through the center of them. So you could still subdivide, but just make sure, I mean, you know that the easement is there before you develop. Okay, this is what my land looks like, I have this easement, I need to configure my lots to allow for this easement to not go through the center of a lot.
Okay.
Put the
Well, I would
pipeline
imagine-
down your road and take your lots off of the road.
Yeah, but if you have a big enough lot, it wouldn't matter if that pipeline went down the middle of it. Correct?
I don't know, I suppose I could see where it would matter if it's not designated anywhere. I think it's more for public health and safety in the sense so that someone's not out there, planting their garden over the top of it or,
Well, they
pasturing
have the
horses over the top of
easement.
it.
I mean,
Right, but they have an easement, but that's recorded on paper. That's nothing physical that they're seeing when they purchase it. And I don't think it would come as a surprise to you all to know that when folks buy property, they don't always look at that plat. I mean, people are consistently building in access easements. I've not had an experience with the pipeline easement, I think because ours is mounded. But
well,
it's
and I
not something that
understand.
they're looking at on paper.
But I'm with Jenny, if there's something with the land that you need to do it that way, like her example, I totally get that. Because there's a lot of,
And then you could request a
Unknown.
variance from this item. I think just to take it out. Because we're already saying no single lot may be divided by an easement, so that still includes already a pipeline easement, an irrigation easement, emergency access. We're not taking out the whole part of this item B. I mean, those are encompassed under this easements. I think just this after the parentheses is simply describing types of easements. But if we're not taking out the easement language in its entirety, why not leave in the descriptors? I mean, we could stop it at easements, but they're still not allowed. You still can't split a lot with a gas, oil, or emergency access easement if we're keeping it in there.
I have a drawing here, okay? 4 lots. 1, 2, 3, 4. River Road, Missouri River. And each lot is 15 acres. Okay? And I have a gas line going through here. I can't develop to go over that.
Is that what you're saying? Because I did that with the 380 subdivision, the pipeline came through and some of the lots touch that pipeline.
But the pipeline doesn't run through the center of the lot.
Not through the center, it runs down the side,
Or
but
through
not the
lot,
edge.
bisecting
It
it.
yeah.
Well, some of them it actually runs, it bisects a lot because the pipeline doesn't go straight, it kind of goes like this and, I mean,
So then, what I'm getting at then is we should consider eliminating the rest of that says easements. Because if we're already putting it in there that says easements, no single lot may be divided by public road, alley, public right of way, or easements. The second half that you're stating to eliminate is simply describing easements.
Right.
It's already covered in there. So maybe we need to eliminate more of this item.
see, and her example's a great example. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at this is the gas line easement and she's got these 4 lots and it bisects the lots. But, I mean, how would you redesign this to so that it wouldn't bisect the lots, I guess?
The only reason I know this is because we own those lots, across the river that were like that, and the gas line went through. And I just sold the other one. We didn't own it.
No matter what you do, that gas line's gonna bisect that, one of the lots. I mean, it's,
And we had the same problem at Ray Creek, because there's such narrow lots between the road and the creek. But the lots, to make them 17 acres, they went up at hill, straight up at hill. So we actually only had 2 acres down there buildable.
That were buildable because everything else was
Was
uphill.
up the
and
hill.
numbered. So what I'm saying is, do we eliminate easements completely? Because if someone were to submit a plan, so we go with your suggested amendment of eliminating everything after the parentheses, right? So that's eliminated. And someone comes in with a development that says no single lot divided by road, alley, public right of way, or easement, and I say, oh, but I see you have a pipeline easement on there, you can't bisect your lot because it's already in here. So what you're removing is only the descriptor of the easement. You're not saying easement. So I think that we need to back up and look at, do you want it to be, I mean, maybe this is a bigger question. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
No, they're all descriptive. That's,
Right, all you're removing is the description.
Mhm.
You're not removing the intent.
well, even the ones in parentheses, that's legal under state law, but it's still descriptive. No, I've got no problem with that. Take it after public rights of way. Blank.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
so what are we doing? So I,
We're taking easements out of it entirely, just no single lot may be divided by a public road, alley, private, or private rights of way.
Period.
okay, and the rest is eliminated?
Yep. Okay, now what was yours, C or D?
C, Charlie. This one, again, I think we're overreaching here. Each lot must have a minimum frontage of 30 feet abutting and having access to a public or private road or street. Holy heck. How many times have we seen developments that, it's on a cul-de-sac and it's a pie shape, maybe it's not even 30 feet, maybe it's 10, maybe it's enough for a driveway, maybe it's 15. How many have a shared driveway to where they have no frontage? And I'm going to use yours as an example.
That's fine.
Because it's fairly fresh in our mind, to where there's a driveway easement to South 51 Ranch Road. But some of those lots do not have road frontage abutting the road, so your design would already be flawed. Not that we'd go back, but I mean, if you were to come forward under these
Yeah,
regulations,
I'm
which
not,
fit for the topography of what you were doing.
right.
So I think to require a 30 feet abutting, I just don't like that.
And it's overbearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we are overreaching on the design standards, because we can have, you know,
That's a
You
good
can
call,
have
Nicole. I
driveways for
missed
two.
that one.
yep, cul-de-sacs and shared driveway easements.
I agree.
So what if we, each lot must have access to a public or private street or road?
Short and
That's
sweet.
fine.
That's all you need,
Take
yeah,
out a minimum frontage of 30 feet abutting and having.
yeah,
Take out those words.
Sure.
Okay.
makes
Okay.
sense.
Good call, Nicole.
As difficult as shared driveways are for an addressing perspective, I think that we would be limiting so much on what could be done with development. I also really like letter F, because when we're talking about this 3-to-1, you know, in our brain, this 3-to-1 ratio, it's a nice rectangle, right, that you can
Right.
tell the area. Well, what did we just look at with Mr. Griffin's property? You have this question, Herb, I believe, of Bernadette, if it meets the 3-to-1. Very difficult, because it's meandering,
Right.
following the road and topography on one side, so I think this is nice too, where it says greater than or equal to 300 feet. Unless the average, I'm sorry, I should have given the whole statement, unless the average width is greater than. So then you can meet the 3-to-1 by taking your average width, as opposed to trying to figure out if you need it.
I'd go even further than that, because I went down and looked at the one, just because I try to look at the sites anyway. That was what I was talking about on page 5, is that I think we need to at least consider that ratio in regards to a building zone. Because on a Griffin subdivision, there's a whole bunch of that that's unbuildable anyway. But it's down over the side of a canyon. It's still a lot, but where you would set the house, just designate a building site on that lot, particularly on a larger one, as a buildable area. If the no-build zones change the 3-to-1, there's nothing wrong with the 3-to-1, there's nothing wrong with the average, but the idea being is topography is going to determine where you're going to put it. And there's actually 2 lots down there at Griffin's. The big lot across the way, there's not a whole lot of buildable space on it. So when you do it, I mean, it meets the parameters, but as far as I'm concerned, it just strengthens the argument for coming up with appropriate language to allow for topography. If you have a no-build zone, the no-build zone comes out of the deal. I'm thinking about that one up there at Winston several years ago where the stream came down through it. Okay, it's obviously a no-build zone. That was the only change that we required on the lot. It was a no-build zone on the other side of the creek.
Right, so at least.
Doesn't change the aspect of, you know, how big the lot is. It just seems foolish to keep tying it in and/or get hung up by adding extra words to try to define something on the 3-to-1. Just say that
What-
there's going to be an allowance for topography, because it shouldn't even require a variance. You're not going to change the ground. If somebody subdivides it, the subdivider shouldn't have to pay a variance fee to go through the variance.
So are you suggesting to amend F? To
What
allow
is
for
the
photography?
purpose of doing this? And I'm just questioning, why do you want to make sure the So you're not getting little narrow lots?
You
Yeah, it's a
ever
rule
see the
they've
town
had
side
for
of Townsend
years.
on a piece of paper?
No, I haven't.
Several of the houses occupy two or more lots.
Because they're so
They're
tiny.
about, well, 150 years ago, you know,
Yeah, we owned some of the
You put a
Springville
little
lots.
shack.
and they-
Springville, yeah, very similar,
Blocks.
yeah.
somebody else gonna have to carry on the meeting. I need to visit the little boys' room, and while I'm on the subject, prior to 1 o'clock, I have an appointment that I have to go sign papers at the bank.
So
I have
let's
a
plan
couple.
to adjourn in maybe 20 more minutes.
Do that.
Fine,
It's 12:21 right now.
20 minutes.
Okay. We'll see how far we can get through. So, we'll come back to that because I'm still not sure if he's suggesting to amend to allow for
So for the
topography.
wording, that's all
So-
we need is the
Right, so if we
correct
can-
wording.
We'll just set page 62 aside for the moment.
Okay.
Okay, blocks, streets and roads, holy heck.
Yeah, this is gonna be a big. I guess we're looking at
Lewis and Clark. huh?
Lewis and Clark.
So, I'm not a board member, but can I make a suggestion that we end after blocks? And give Mary and I both a chance to review the Lewis and Clark County road standards?
I was just gonna suggest.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I should not interject.
No,
myself.
that's okay. No,
I think that's an excellent idea.
I would just like the opportunity to look at it. I mean, I trust that, you know, you took a good look at it certainly, but I think it's only fair if everyone has the ability to.
Well, the thing is, I did this one first, so it's been, I have to recollect, and having done all of these in between, my brain, and that doesn't take much. It's-
Overload?
Oh, we're talking flames, not even smoke coming out the ears.
We don't even get the smoke anymore, huh?
No,
Yeah, I think because now that we're into the road section, I think it would be pertinent
and this is so important. This was our number one issue.
to
was
pause.
roads.
Yeah,
Mhm.
roads have been,
And probably will continue to be.
Oh, yes, it will.
so any amendments, questions under blocks? I think we can remove the incorporated areas because we're stepping into city jurisdiction. And they will make that determination. I don't think that we have any authority, well, we don't, I shouldn't say anything. We do not have authority.
Just cross it out.
Yep.
You're on A1.
Yes.
Okay.
And with that, why the same for A2?
I would say the same thing,
Yeah.
because we say 1,600. Most of our adjoining counties say 1,600. We made exceptions for it on the one south of Coulter's Run years ago because topography, again, didn't allow for interconnecting streets. Doesn't make any sense to have it in the standards.
I don't know why we're limiting the length to be not more than. I can see a minimum of potentially, but why are we saying not more than? I don't know. Can we remove 2 as well?
Yes.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
I think just go to our language, I think we say 1,600 unless, I can't remember exactly how it's worded.
Extenuating circumstances.
But the idea of it, 1,600 is a recommended length, maximum length or something of that nature.
Okay,
Because if it's a single street subdivision, then you get into turnarounds anyway. So why get too excited about it?
right. Okay.
So are we eliminating it or just changing it?
Well, eliminate, the way I hear it is to eliminate 1 and 2, VGA 1 and 2, and insert our current language regarding blocks. The length or the, let me see what that is exactly. Well, I'm looking that up. Herb, did you want to make an amendment to VFF? I feel like we did not capture your
Well,
recommendation.
my thought process, I mean, I'm open, I just don't think, it kind of goes back to the idea that, okay, here was the standard, so we want to amend it, so now we get bigger. The ratio should approximate a 3-to-1, depending upon no build zones. That's just at first blush, but something along those lines. It's not to do away with it, but why do we make it longer? Let's just make it simpler and say that it should approximate it based on
Topography.
areas outside of no build zones. If it's too steep to build on, it shouldn't make any difference. It's extra
Right.
scenery.
Right.
I don't care. That's just,
So did you want to put depending on topography, like she said? Jenny?
So I wrote down, no build zone shall not be included in the 3-to-1 ratio.
okay, that'd be fine. It says the same thing, it's shorter.
Okay. Well, because they couldn't capture everything you were saying about the approximation. But it was much more eloquent, but,
All I'm looking to do is to give them a break on the idea that, okay, if you're gonna subdivide it, you designate this as a no-build zone because it's value to the property, but you can't build a house there anyway without a great deal of expense. And in some cases, it's completely outside of our existing standards for the 25%. So let's just count the buildable area of the lot.
okay.
If everybody wants it to be, I mean, we don't want the 40-foot wide lots like the city has here.
Understood.
But that, other than that, I really don't care. I think a lot of that went in at the same time, didn't it, with the flag lots and all that other kind of stuff? And it was just another way of trying to reinforce what they didn't want.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna suggest adding that sentence and then.
Can you read it?
Yep, absolutely. So, VFF will now read in its entirety. No lot may have an average depth greater than 3 times its average width unless the average width is greater than or equal to 300 feet. No build zones shall not be included in the 3-to-1 ratio.
That's the best
Okay,
part right
perfect.
there.
And then our language for blocks currently states, unless impractical, block length must not be more than 1,600 feet. So I think that's good.
I think that's the shortest, best
Okay.
description of
Yep.
what we need.
Yep.
And so that will be item VGA1.
And 2? Oh,
Well, we're gonna eliminate 2 completely.
Okay.
Was my thought, but unless you want to do something different.
no.
And Herb, when you stepped away, we, not we, because I'm not a board member, they made the decision. We had the discussion on holding off going any further until the next meeting, because the next section is streets and roads. And Mary and I want to have time to read through Lewis and Clark County.
Because I don't even have it.
Okay.
Me neither.
Actually, what happened is Nicole decided we should go home.
But since I'm a board member, I have no authority. No, I just think that we would be
Yeah. Oh,
redundant
yeah.
in going
Makes
through this
sense.
section if there's something better out there.
Right.
Yep.
We're with you.
Saves time.
And it's lunchtime too. It is 12:30. Holy mackerel.
It
Time
is.
flies when you're having fun.
Okay, so putting a pin in it, we are ending at GG. We will pick back up on streets and roads, page 63. We did very, very well. Considering the first 30 minutes of the meeting, we're discussing how to proceed. Good. Mary, it might take me a minute to print it off. Are you going to be in town at all later today or this week? Or I can email it to you, but I don't want you to have to.
I will be at the Corfus probably tomorrow.
Okay, I'll have that ready for you then, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. And then our next meeting would be on the 23rd. Is that what we're doing, or? Oh, that's this meeting, sorry.
The next regular planning board meeting is.
The 4th?
Supposed to be the 4th,
I think that's
next
what I wrote.
Thursday.
At 3 o'clock.
At 3, we have some subdivisions on there
Mhm.
to make recommendations on, and then we can get back into subdivision regulation. And I will be leaving on vacation on the 5th. I'm not taking any of this with me. And I will.
Well, you have to, if the deadline for Jerry
I will
occurs
pass the torch to
between
someone
the
else.
time that the
Oh,
last meeting.
I will have Helen come and sit in. I'll be back on the 15th.
And when is Jerry's?
He was going to look into it. I thought that he'd sent me a response, but I did not have a response. He
I mean,
emailed me.
his money to pay him?
That's what he was, yeah.
Oh, great.
He was going to look into it. I thought that he had responded, but
What's
I
a
think it was the
vacation?
commissioners. Are we adjourned? If I end here, what's a vacation? I know.
We're adjourned.